So, we're going to talk about something important. As some of you know, I have a disease called reflex neurovascular dystrophy, and it basically works in this fashion. My neurovascular system involves my veins and my blood vessels and my nerves in my legs and my arms. And when I was born, I was a preemie, so the blood supply that goes to the nerves in my legs, my arms, didn't develop properly. So now I have a diminished blood and oxygen supply that goes to my lower limbs and my upper extremities. So basically, this results in misfiring signals being sent to my brain. So when it's like if your brain is starved of oxygen, you can't think properly, you can't function properly. It's the same kind of idea. It's just my nervous system. So it doesn't work correctly because it doesn't get enough blood and oxygen. So during what I call a flare, I get really, really intense pain in my legs, especially mostly my left leg and my right leg. And it the best way I can describe it is it feels like somebody took a baseball bat and just slammed into my legs really, really hard. And it's this radiating, kind of creeping feeling where it comes down from my hip and kind of like spiders through my leg, almost like how you'd imagine like tendrils or something. And this disease has wreaked significant havoc through my life. I had it since I was about 4 years old. I was diagnosed at 18, which was really, really, really late. I went to doctors from the time I was about 8, and every single one that I saw told me you have growing pains, which medically doesn't have a definition. It's just kind of a blanket term for we don't know what's wrong with you, and we don't care to put the effort in to find out what that is. So I got kind of labeled as an unknown case for a really long time. And as that was kind of progressing, I was seeing more doctors. I was, getting older, learning how to articulate my symptoms better. And as this kind of went on, my unknown at the time disease kind of progressed, and it took my right leg and then my right arm. And we found out later this is a progressive disease, which over time it will overtake each of your limbs in succession and eventually get to your core tissue, your organs. It's really not a great thing to end up with. So I have been dealing with this since a very young child, and I ended up fighting for my doctors to believe me, for people to pay attention to the fact that young women dealing with chronic pain aren't just hysterical, we aren't just over emotional, we aren't faking it for attention. Many, many women have died or been seriously, seriously long-term injured because physicians and medical practitioners do not take our claims seriously. And it's a really, really big problem throughout the medical industry. There are countless women I know that have been through severe, severe medical problems, including kidney disease and cancer and other seriously life-threatening issues, and they have been brushed off as totally not valid complaints until it was too late, which is the case for my disease personally. Reflex neurovascular dystrophy is a disease that, if caught kind of in the window between childhood and puberty, can be either maintained or reversed to a degree with intensive physical therapy. And if you miss that window, you end up with a progressive form that will not diminish, it will not get better. You either can find a drug to maintain it at a livable degree, or you don't. And it's not called the suicide disease for no reason. I'm sorry. I just think about this sometimes, and I think about the fact that had I not found the treatment that I did, I could very well be one of those statistics, and it's a very, very scary thing for me. I was put on heavy duty opiates as a child, about 16 years old. And that was tough. A lot of people look at you like you're a drug abuser because you're on a heavy duty medication at a very young age. And that's really hard because that's not the case. A lot of times you're just trying to survive. And that's really, really hard. And I was on those drugs for several years, and I had never had that kind of pain relief in my life. I didn't even think it existed. I really thought that I would live the rest of my life in severe, crippling pain. And when I was introduced to these meds, it was under the impression that we would find the correct narcotic pain reliever and continue with that treatment to whatever degree was safe. And because I live in Massachusetts, where there's a severe opioid crisis right now, and that has resulted in a lot of doctors really pulling their support of opiate medications for people in severe chronic pain. And the result of that has been really catastrophic for those of us who rely on those medications every single day to ensure our mobility and our function. And for me, that was the case. I was torn straight off all of my medications. I was on 20 milligrams of Percocet a day, which was going to be bumped up to 30. And when I got to that appointment, I was actually told that no, you're not getting increased, even though this medication has proven to have you back in school to a regular attendance rate, and your grades are getting better and your overall health is improving. That didn't matter. What mattered was there was an opioid crisis in Massachusetts, and if you were under a certain age, about 30, it was not seen as good for you to be on opioid medication. Regardless of your disease, it didn't matter what you had. So I was taken off my medication, no weaning off it or anything like that. It was abrupt like that. And kind of thrown to the curb, just good luck. Hope you don't kill yourself with this horrific disease you have. Good luck. Deal with it yourself. And that was really, really damaging. Beyond damaging, honestly. To be cast out by my doctors and basically told, you don't matter. Your suffering doesn't matter. Nothing you're going through matters. It only matters that we're afraid to prescribe this medication, which I do respect and I do understand. But had they never taken me off that medication, I never would have been put in the position to try heroin for the first time. So, I digress into the story of how I became a heroin addict. Living with chronic pain for your whole life is something I really can't describe unless you've been through it. If you haven't lived your entire life knowing what severe, debilitating pain is, like the kind of pain that makes you start hyperventilating and shaking and vomiting and blacking out and going into the early stages of traumatic shock, you don't know what living like that is like. And to be put through that by people who are supposed to help you, by the people who are supposed to be looking out for your well-being, it took an oath to do so, is really, really hard on you. I got to a point where I was having flares so severe in school that I was throwing up my lunch. I couldn't stay in class. I would go to the nurse so frequently to get ice that they would start turning me away because they thought I was skipping my classes. So one day it got so bad, I couldn't stay still. I couldn't stop getting sick. And I finally told my friend Sarah, get me anything. I don't care what it is at this point. I need this to stop. I can't take it anymore. And I was supposed to get 2 Dilaudid pills, which is the prescription I had been on prior to this most recent being taken off medication. And that particular person could not get that medication. And that was the first day that someone put heroin in front of me. I didn't even think about it, to be totally honest. It was bags, pills, I don't care. Give me anything I can put in my body that will make this stop. I don't care anymore. And so I did those 2 bags, and my life changed. I finally understood what it was like to live without severe chronic pain. I had never experienced that, ever, since I was 3 or 4 years old. And I finally understood what it was like to be normal. My goal doing heroin was never, let's get as fucked up as possible, like, yeah, party. That was never it. It was never that cavalier. It was never that, like, lighthearted in any way. It was a means to an end. I remember thinking when I did those bags that I was taking a serious risk. It was extremely dangerous, and I knew that. I understood that it was really, really dangerous to be doing that. But I thought to myself, at least you can come back from heroin addiction. You can't come back from suicide after you've dealt with chronic pain for too long. And those were my options. Those were the only options at the time. And that continued for several years. And during that time, I got in a severe car accident. We were going about 50 miles an hour. And the driver stopped responding. He started absolutely flooring it on a back road. There were leaves, it was wet. And he hit an L-shaped turn, and I was in the passenger seat. I had my feet actually like this with my knees against my chest because his floor had so much crap on it. He was just throwing trash there and everything. And, you know, at 17, I didn't think about it. I was like, whatever, I'll put my legs on the seat. It's fine. And we hit the guardrail going about 50. And my knees slammed back into my chest, and I flew forward and I hit the dashboard with my legs. And the airbag smashed my legs into my chest. And that caused severe damage to my spine. I later won a lawsuit against this man who recklessly drove into this guardrail and caused this severe injury. But that's besides the point. The fact that I was further injured was the point. And I no longer could work. I no longer was going to California for school like I planned. I had to rewrite the plan for my life. Everything I'd ever wanted disappeared. And that was really hard to reconcile with. When you're 16, 17, 18 years old, you're starting your life. You're starting your freedom. You're, spreading your wings. You're doing everything you wanted to do. When you get hit with something unexpected, like a severe injury, all of that disappears. It disappears overnight. I couldn't leave my doctors. I couldn't leave the care of my family. Like, more often than not, I'd have to have my dad carry me fully clothed into the bathtub and just plop right in, because after I'd had ice on my legs for so long and I stopped working, heat was the only thing that would help. So he'd carry me into our big bathtub upstairs and just plop me in the water, fully clothed. And that was a normal occurrence. This wasn't abnormal in my house. So, after the accident, it got a lot worse. And fighting that insurance claim is really hard, having a pre-existing condition. Any of you that have been through that, it's really difficult because they want to pin your pre-existing condition as the reason or the current thing that you're fighting about. And if that isn't the case, they make you fight tooth and nail to prove that it's not. And that's really hard. So that's what I did. And I ended up getting a $13,000 settlement, which actually set me up for the life I have now in this lovely apartment with my husband and our rabbit, which I love more than life. And it's taken a lot to get here. After I started using heroin, I used for several years. I got clean right before I met this guy. And, he was British and sexy and tall and, the kind of mesmerizing you see in a movie. And his name was Connor Myers. I have no problem naming him. He's a bastard, and he needs to live with that. We met We spent the week together. He took me out on a boat, and we had this really romantic first date, at sunset on a lake in a canoe, and it was so nice. And that relationship was really nice until he started abusing me. So, it went from sunset lake trips to being sexually abused. So, he took advantage of the fact I was 17 years old, 1 week clean off heroin, and used that to manipulate me severely. And to all the girls out there who are young and are beautiful and have older guys, trying to get your attention and trying to get close to you, think about why they might be before you engage with that. There isn't a good reason for a 21-year-old man to be interested in a 17-year-old girl. I don't care how special they make you feel, it's wrong. It is wrong, and it is not okay. No matter how, even if the person is not abusing you, the fact that they are older to that degree creates an unbalanced power dynamic, and it is not healthy. Please, please remember that. It is not healthy. And I don't want someone else to go through what I had to go through. And so one night after he had raped me for the, I don't even know how many times. It was a lot. So I lived with that. And, it had been the however many time. And I was sitting on the edge of the couch, like the arm of the couch, as far away as possible as I could get from him. In this small basement apartment. And I got a text. And it's from a number I didn't recognize. And, it said, "Is this still Hannah?" And I said, "Yeah." And it said, "It's Sam." I'm like, "Sam who? I know like 6. It's like, "Sam Driscoll." And I said, "Sorry." I can't help it. This one text changed the course of my entire life. And I'm so fucking lucky. This one text message changed absolutely everything for me. So, after that, we started talking again. And to fill you guys in, Sam was someone I met when I was about 14 years old. And I thought he was the most beautiful human being I'd ever seen. And when I met him originally, I was, just a little 14-year-old girl. I was the cover story for a friend of mine to go on a date with someone who happened to be his stepbrother. And hold on. I gotta actually see if he's home. So I went on a date with someone who, dated his stepbrother. And I was the cover story. I was the reason she was allowed to go. And so we went, and everything was great. I met him when I was walking outside. And it was really sweet, He had this long black hair and these bright, bright blue eyes. And it was just the most mesmerizing thing I'd ever seen. And so he texted me. We started talking. I started lying to the guy I was with and saying, "Oh, I'm at my friend Alice's. Oh, I'm at my mom's. I'm doing this." Anything to get away from him. And started spending time at Sam's. I'd stay there till like 3 a.m. And I'd always liked him ever since high school. I was infatuated with him in high school, honestly. And then suddenly I started to realize the way I was being treated by Connor was really sick and really wrong. And I understood I needed to get out. And Sam helped me escape and helped me be safe. And we built this beautiful life. We went through battling our drug addictions together, and we went through homelessness and halfway houses and my mother's abuse, and now we're here in this beautiful home, this beautiful life. And I wouldn't be the woman I am without him. I wouldn't have this beautiful life. And I'm just really fucking lucky. He saved my life. He saved everything I am. He's been the biggest supporter dealing with my disease and dealing with my illness. And not a day goes by that I don't think about how lucky I am. I wouldn't be the woman I am today without him. I wouldn't be me. I wouldn't be as strong, and I wouldn't be as resilient, and I wouldn't believe so fervently in the fact that true love exists. And it does conquer all. It conquered the rapes I went through. It conquered my chronic pain and my illness and my parental abuse and my self-doubt and everything that I went through. It was always in the background cheering me on and telling me I would be okay. And I am. I'm going to be a counselor for people dealing with drug addiction and trauma in just 1 year. I'm graduating in a month, and I have this glorious, adorable baby bunny that is actually, right under me right now. This is Bean. She's my baby girl. And I wouldn't have any of this without my amazing, wonderful, selfless husband. And I'm so fucking lucky. I just really hope he understands how instrumental he's been in the building of my life. I wouldn't be me without him. And I wouldn't have overcome my disease, my addiction, anything, without his help. So I guess I just want to thank him for that. I am eternally grateful.